and I just like, took a few extra dollar bills from my dad's briefcase or something.
Oh my gosh.
Did they ever catch you?
More!
Lunch
break. What's up, guys?
It's also weird to hear the lag of it.
Yeah. So we're back with another remote lunch break. We are joined today by our +1 from Patreon, Victoria Deuce. I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. And she requested Hawaiian food today. So everybody show your Hawaiian food. I
actually got Hawaiian
spam and
food.
eggs again. Spam and eggs with some green beans.
They do a lot of surfing in Hawaii, so Red Bull probably sponsors a surfing competition. We also got another special guest here today with us, and that's Eric.
Hey guys, thanks for having me here.
Yeah, Eric is
Bopo
Mofo, co-founder,
In the
co-owner, and also obviously like a big part of the Wong Fu family as well. And a reason why we wanted to bring him onto this particular episode is because of the topic that we're discussing today.
So in this episode, we're going to be talking about a little bit about money and like financial advice and like what money means to us, and how to navigate that world. It's like one of the things that we call adulting.
And people don't really talk about it often.
Just a quick disclaimer, like I haven't worked in the financial industry for like the last 10 years. So
It has not been 10 years.
has it been 10 years? No, 2000
So we first met Eric under the context of finance, and he worked at a very large bank, and he was very, very helpful in helping us get our bank accounts and finances straight and giving us advice. And even to this day, he has that knowledge that he still brings into just friendly advice, and also at Bopo Mofo obviously too. So we thought that Eric would probably be the most knowledgeable of our friends to talk about this. But
I was always a big advocate of the bank that I worked at. Yeah, so I met I met Phil and Wes and Ted, like decades ago, and we talked about how I can open a checking account for them, because that was our sales. That's honestly what we were doing as bankers at that time.
So where was the money before? In a mattress, Phil?
Well, you know what? The funny thing is that it was pretty early on. Wes and myself, we all moved to LA after college, in 2006, and then we met Eric basically end of 2007. So it was only maybe a year and a half where, the three of us, it was all just our personal accounts, and then Eric was like, "Oh, you guys can organize a little bit better."
Wait, did online banking exist yet? Sorry.
Yes. Wait,
Yes.
did it? Yeah. No, it did. It did.
It probably
Yeah, I
wasn't
think it
as
did.
advanced, but
Well, let's take a step back. Let's go back to each of our individual kind of experiences with learning about money. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a question for you guys, because I feel like the first exposure people have to money is when you start earning it, right? Or you first get that feeling, right? So
Yeah.
when was that first time that you felt the value or felt the importance of money?
Well, I mean, this is before working, but when you get allowances, and I guess when you're young, obviously you don't have a bank account, but you accumulate those red envelopes.
Yeah.
And you pocket those money. And I think a lot of it was you're given some money, and then you have a little bit of spending power, and then you can go to the movies or get a cup of coffee. And I think that was kind
Wait,
of.
as a child?
What are you talking about? Dude, Chris.
I mean, what else could I spend it on? A house?
No,
Wait, when was the
Slurpee.
first time you had coffee?
What are you talking
I probably had coffee around 13, 14.
Okay,
Wow.
so
Okay.
I think for me it started when you wanted toys, and you learn your parents told you, hey, you can't have that, it's too expensive, and then you realize, oh, what's expensive? Oh, you have to have money. And so I would start trying to do little chores around the house or little assignments to earn it, and then obviously the red envelopes that made you feel like, oh shoot, I got a quarter, I got $1. Exactly, yeah.
I actually interacted with money very, very early on, probably as a toddler.
What?
Because my grandparents have a store in San Diego, and anytime we would get babysat, we would be at that store. So I remember from a very early age, I would
You were slanging DVDs. You were slanging gum.
I would sort coins, that would be a task I would give in to sort coins, or I learned how to use a register very early.
Wow.
Is this child labor?
Yeah.
Child labor?
You're just totally exposing your grandparents.
Baby
right now.
labor.
So like I actually learned how to program like a cash register as like a child. Like I knew how to put in the tax and the change and all that. It was, now that I look back, yeah,
That's
very
kinda
early
cool.
on.
I think my first time my interaction with money was actually stealing money from my parents.
Oh no.
I
think it was
I
like
did
a-
not have
I think
the
it
balls
was-
to do that.
I think it was like in middle school where I was like, man, I needed more, snacks and more soda from the vending machine.
Because you're
And
growing.
I just like, took a few extra dollar bills from my dad's briefcase or something.
Oh my
my
gosh!
gosh, Eric.
Did they ever catch you?
They caught me, yeah, for sure.
Were you
But
and
I think
you
that
were
was, like-
punished?
yeah, I probably got like hit.
Oh
or
my
something.
gosh! He needed that Fruitopia money. He needed more Funyuns.
Yeah. You had a job through high school, right?
Junior, summer, and senior year, I worked at a Target, and that's when I first started
I
earning.
didn't have a job in high school. No.
Wow.
Not until
Okay.
college.
Yeah. Well, Benson, we already know was already working the register.
Yeah.
Freelance design stuff in high school. It wasn't steady or anything. It was just here and there.
Oh, that's
But-
even better. So, at what point do you remember the first time you went to go make a savings account or a bank account? Because I have a very vivid memory of like the first time my parents took me in.
It was like the summer going into college. And a lot of these like relationship managers are always going to be like, you need to start a savings account. We have good products for college students. Open a credit card. I mean, as a child, I used to go a lot with my mom where she would make those deposits.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the most boring errand.
I hated
It's
going
like
to the
you
bank. Yeah.
It was
That's
just
probably
like
where
end
you
of
got
that
your
line.
coffee, right? Because there was free coffee at the bank.
free coffee, and then they had the lollipops.
Yeah.
I just played with
But,
a pen that was attached to the chain. I just remember just playing with,
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
the chain. That's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the only
yeah.
thing.
The ball chain.
little
you can, like,
beads?
twist
Yeah.
it and
Yeah.
like,
But yeah, that was probably the earliest I remember like opening up like an account where I kind of had to sign off on.
So you were in college?
The summer going into college.
Okay.
Same here. Yeah. I just remember like the summer right before college. My dad took me to the bank. I think my first bank account was at Washington Mutual. Was it?
Same.
Wow.
Was that yours
that
too?
was my
Yeah.
first bank.
Yeah.
I wonder
It
if
came-
there was like special marketing towards Asians or something at the time.
I had my first bank account, I think, around 9 years old.
Oh my gosh.
What?
No way.
What are you, like
Really?
a early bloomer?
Okay, so when I was 9 years old, I was cast as a background in this like made-for-TV pilot.
Really? Wow.
What?
They were shooting in San Diego, and they needed like Asian kids to play like Chinese refugees
So
in
you
like,
opened
shipping
a
container.
Did you open a Coogan account?
I don't know. I was 9, but like they needed
Okay.
us to have bank accounts so they could pay us because we were paid. We were paid like $50 a day. It was a 3-day thing for like it
Yeah.
was like me, my brother, and then like my dad took us to set, and then like they just like looped him in too for some reason.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Your dad pocketed all that money for sure.
Probably,
Child
but like,
actors.
but yeah, they paid us $50 a day, I think. And it was
Nice.
supposed to be like when you turn 18, like you have access to it, but like I don't remember ever getting
No.
access to it.
Hey guys, this episode of Lunch Break is brought to you by Care of. Care of is a wellness brand that makes it easy to keep up with your health goals with a customized vitamin plan. They offer hassle-free vitamin and supplement daily packs delivered right to your door. And each Care of product is backed by research and science. We try our best on Lunch Break to eat healthy, but if you're a longtime viewer, you know that that's not always true. But to get started, you could take a short online quiz to help them tailor a plan to meet your lifestyle and health goals. So I took the quiz and it was real fun and super easy. It asked me what level of curiosity I had and even walked me through some simple questions to gauge the areas of interest that I have. And from there, they sent me a batch of supplements like calcium, iron, and magnesium, all to help me achieve my goals. So for 50% off your first Care of order, go to takecareof.com and use the code LUNCH50 at checkout. Again, for 50% off your first order, go to takecareof.com and use the code LUNCH50 at checkout. The links will be down below, and we'll get back to the episode.
Yeah, I guess we could kind of talk into like what kind of money means. Like what is the significance of money, or like
I mean, I think for especially a lot of Asian families, money is a huge part of like our values or things that like that drive us for better and worse.
it's like a metric. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But I think it ultimately comes down to just like a lot of our parents are immigrants, and so to them, finances and money was freedom and power and access, right? Because they couldn't do. There was a language barrier, there was a culture barrier, but hey, everyone speaks green, right? So as long as they could pay the money and that they could live a normal life, right? So I think that's why they emphasize it so much to us as kids. Looking back, like we were definitely like a upper middle class like family, but like I grew up thinking that we were really poor. I grew up thinking that, oh my gosh, like there was a time when I remember hearing my mom say, I don't know if we can afford bread this week. And I was like, wait, what? Like, is it that bad? You know, so that's kind of like what was instilled in me.
I think what's also interesting too is like, I think especially in Asian cultures, the competition just between families is a very highlighted thing. You know, like who's got the nicest house, who's got the nicest car, who's got the smartest kid, right? And I definitely like grew up around that, but I think you know, my parents kind of fell into that a little bit in my early childhood, but I think now as we've all kind of grown into adults, it's like it's good to know that has kind of passed and we're not so focused on like trying to compete with other families or things like that, because I think that's like it can be really unhealthy.
I wonder if that came from the fact that a lot of our parents, like maybe they all feel like they all came with some kind of like unequal like level, like okay, we're all immigrants, we're all thrown into this new environment. So now the only way to judge how people are doing, like you're wondering, oh, what are they doing that I'm not doing? You know, like how are they able to have such a good house? Oh shoot, like we need to figure out. It is competitive.
What's
because
working, what's not working. Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's kind of like even like Eric, like you know, in an influencer world, you look at like another influencer on Instagram, you're like, wait, you know, why are they able to afford all these things? What am I doing wrong? You know, with our you know channel. It's kind of like that maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, my parents always took. I think with money, they've always wanted to spread it as much as they like. They're very generous. Like my dad, I think. I get a lot of that from my dad. His generosity just kind of like it doesn't matter how much they had or how much they made. They've always just felt that if they're happy in life and maybe if their friends are happy, that it would make them happy. And I think thinking about it, I kind of personify with that because money doesn't really represent sort of status for us. It's just more about like personal happiness, if that makes sense.
I was gonna say like in terms of generosity, yeah, like I think Asians get a bad like stereotype that we're cheap, you know, and that we don't like to spend or we don't like to spend it on others. But I mean, you know, there's also the stereotype that like, you know, we fight for the bill, and maybe that's obviously rooted in like status. But I think the quote unquote cheapness comes from also like their condition. They're coming from a culture or world where you could lose everything at any time, right? And so they want to save because it's very scary. Like it's a security blanket, right?
I think our parents instill in us that it's really important to save, right? And that's why they have that sort of cheapness and mentality or scarcity mentality, just because they probably don't know how hard it is for us to build a savings account in the future. The time that they've been here, when they immigrated here, it was probably really, really tough to build a savings account. Most Asian parents probably want you to save and buy a house or buy a car. That probably was the next steps.
I still remember the first time I felt like generosity from someone. It was in college, and there was like an upperclassman, and we went out to get boba or something, and then he paid for me, and I was like, that like blew my mind. I had never experienced that before. And I remember he was Korean, and I wonder if that's also like maybe a bigger part of like Korean culture too, where like the older people are supposed to, you know, take care of the younger kids or whatever. But I just remember after that moment that like totally like flipped a switch. I'm like, oh, like I can do, and I want to give that feeling to other people too.
Do you remember the first time you treated someone?
That I don't remember, but I do remember like starting from that point being more open to. And always and feeling like, you know, it'll come back, and like it's like this, it's, you know, not to like, you know, nickel and dime people, but like, you know, if you keep good people around you, then it'll always kind of come back in some way, yeah. But I feel like a lot of things happen in college that affected or that, you know, like are a turning point for finances too. Like, do you remember like in college, like on like the first week, there's all the banks would be on like, you know, the quad and saying, hey, sign up for a checking account, sign up for a credit card. Is that what you guys all did too?
Nope.
No.
Because I already had an account, and if you don't have much, if you don't have a lot of like cash on hand, then there isn't really a point in spreading your assets across like multiple banks. If you only have like $2,000 or $3,000, it's
No,
like
but-
1,000 here, 1,000 here, 1,000 here. It's kind of a silly. I think it's a silly incentive.
I learned this the hard way though, is that like starting a credit card in college is actually like the easiest time, and that's when you should, because I didn't open a credit card in college, even though my mom told me I should, and I just was lazy. I didn't want to go through the paperwork or whatever. And then as soon as I got out of college, it was so hard to get a credit card. That's actually where Eric helped me, is that
Oh, really?
I was, yeah, this is where the
That's where he
stories like
comes in.
converge. Is like I couldn't get a credit card, and Eric had to help me get this like secure card to start building credit. And he was like so
Yeah.
adamant. I'm like, why did you start one in college? Like they just give away credit cards.
You also have to be really careful during that time too, because I definitely made like some of the biggest like financial mistakes during that early time in college, because it was so easy to get a card, and I didn't understand like interest rates and all that yet, and I just people were telling me, get a card, build your credit, and I'm like, okay, and then like, you know, you're putting everything on the card, and all of a sudden, you know, it just adds up, and like you end up
Overspending.
just like in a blink of an eye,
You were
just,
charging more than you were paying each month.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, you know, starting in college, I didn't have a job. I think I felt a lot of guilt because like I was the only one of my brothers to move out, so I didn't like ask for help or assistance or anything. So I was like, no, I'm fine. I don't need money. But then, you know, a couple years later, and then you know, I'm in a bunch of credit card debt, not knowing how to get out, and you know, that was definitely a time where I was like, if I just like did the research at the time, I could have like avoided so much like headache and stress later on.
Just to kind of echo in Benson, like I also kind of learned a hard way very, very fast. Like because just to preface, like when you're a college student and you get a credit card, you're like, and you're just kind of entering a ecosystem of just like peers having things, and you see that you don't have it, or you just want things as well, just for your personal sake, that you just start charging up your credit card, and at that time you have no knowledge of whether or not that affects your credit 10 years later. Or I think what I saw after college a lot of was, a lot of students charging up credit cards or applying for credit cards, and they're like, man, I could get by just by paying that $15
Don't do it.
monthly minimum payment and be okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't
They
do the
make
minimum.
they make it really easy for people to fall into traps, because like you'll reach your limit, and then they'll give you a little bit more, and they'll give you a little
Yeah,
bit
so maybe
more.
we can actually like transition into like some tips right now.
Yeah, credit card is it's something that, you know, kind of get really deep in at different times in their lives for different reasons. I think largely is knowing that, you know, for credit cards, you obviously want to try and make your monthly payments. You should keep your, you know, I don't want to get too technical, but keep your credit ratio down. I guess people should know that credit card isn't like free money. You know, it is you're essentially taking a loan, and you're promising that you're going to pay back at the end of every month.
Yeah, a very high
So
interest
it's just
loan.
being very careful.
The reason you guys brought me on, I just want to put this PSA out there. So building credit from scratch, I think there's 3 easy steps. Is that you either get a student credit card when you're in college. If that doesn't work out, like let's just say you don't get approved, then your second option would be to go get a secured credit card. So how the secured credit card works is that you you have your parents or your friend or maybe yourself, if you have a chunk of money, you know, they usually start off at like $300. You deposit that, and the bank holds on to that for a year, and your credit limit is $300 or whatever you put down. And that's how you build credit. Or the other option is like, this probably does come from more privileged side, is that your parents give you a card of their own, right? The misconception is that, you're building your children's credit when you add them as an authorized signer, but when in fact it's actually not. You're just a authorized signer to use that card, but there is a way to add you as a co-signer on the card if you want to do that, but just make sure that you go through the right sort of hurdles for that.
I mean, we're coming up towards the end of this episode, but like there's so much to unpack of just finances. Obviously, like there's entire YouTube channels, you know, and books and everything, but podcast.
We'll have many parts.
Yeah, this is part 1 of a series as we're discovering. This is just the intro to money, and then we'll do a taxes, we'll do a loans, we'll do a stocks, and oh my gosh. Yeah, thanks so much, Eric, for coming on this episode and getting our feet wet with this topic.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
And once again, special thanks to Victoria for joining us today as our +1 from Patreon. Thank you for your continued support, everybody on Patreon. If you're not on Patreon yet, make sure to check it out. All the links are down below. It really helps us through these interesting times.
Yeah, and you get to join us for lunch break. So how fun is that?
And if you guys have any other topics that you want us to explore, comment down below. Be sure to check out our merch at wongfustore.com. We got some cool merch. I think Benson's wearing one at the moment.
I feel like I wore this last time too.
He just wears it, sleeps, eats with it.
See you guys next Thursday. Bye.